So today we're going to talk about topographic maps, and our focus question is how to understand and use topographic maps. So what is a topographic map? They show elevation with the use of contour lines. So take a look at this picture on the right. You'll notice that there's all these lines throughout the picture, and these are called contour lines. And the area in between those lines are called contour intervals. And these show the elevation of the area. So this is another example of a topographic map, and in this one you'll notice that on top of the lines there's also color coding, and the darker the color, the higher the elevation. So like we said, the contour lines show differences in elevations, and the numbers within the line show the elevation of that line. So you'll notice right here, this one says 700. Now, do we know what this interval is? Well, from just looking at this area, it's difficult to figure out. So what you want to do when you want to find the difference or the interval, because it will be consistent throughout the graph, is find two numbers near each other where you can count the amount of lines between. So now that I look at this, I see 800, I see 900. There's 4 lines in between. So if I were to figure out what each interval would be, I know that I have 100 is the difference between 800 and 900, and there's 5 intervals because there are 4 lines in between, which must mean that each line or interval shows 20 feet or meters difference in elevation. So 800 to 820, 820 to 840, 840 to 860, 860 to 880, and then 880 to 890. Another thing to notice is that in these areas where you have these very, very close together lines, like you'll notice here, this shows a much steeper area than areas that are much more spread out, like here. So this one shows you those steeper areas a little bit better by marking them with these railroad track-like marks. So you'll have this very steep area where the lines are very close together, and this gentler slope where they're further apart. But once again, you'll notice that there are contour lines with those numbers in between showing the elevation changes. So based on looking at this map, can we figure out what land masses we have all around here and what type of landforms exist? Well, you do know that there seem to be many peaks throughout. So one thing that you'll notice is on top of showing lakes, we also can notice, because of the intensity at which these incline due to how close the lines are together, we can kind of visualize then what this area looks like. So once again, in this picture, it shows us those elevation lines as well as those numbers in between. And this one looks like it would just be a single peak that gets much steeper at the top. Why might this be useful if you are a hiker or you are someone that likes to go adventuring around? Well, one thing is that it can show you what the easiest route might be to get to your destination. If you know that you have these rock walls or these very steep areas that you have to get up, it might not be as easy if you don't have the supplies. You might need to take a much gentler slope on the way up. Or maybe your intention is to tackle those harder areas, so you might be looking for those areas on a topographic map. Go ahead and move on to your worksheet for today. Don't forget how to use those intervals and use those lines to figure out the differences in elevation between different points.